Okay, so I made a video recently talking about a man who assaulted federal agents with a sandwich in Washington, D.C. Well, it turns out he is a DOJ employee.
Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer.
Yeah, so he's in very big trouble, and there are a lot of other people who are protesting federal agents as well, such as holding up signs to get out of the way, Homeland Security is down the road. We're going to be covering all of these new events in Washington, D.C. Now, before we start the video, make sure to please like this video. It's the #1 way you guys are helping this channel, but it also helps others see the videos as well, and you guys did an awesome job last time. People need to see what's going on in Washington, D.C.
And took it and threw it at the officer. He thought it was funny. Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer. And we're going to back the police to the hilt. So there, stick your Subway sandwich somewhere else.
Like I said at the beginning of the video, this man was a DOJ employee, but he has been fired. That is straight from Pam Bondi herself. Now, she also said we need to make an example out of this man, that there are government employees who pretty much pretend to be fans of Donald Trump and fans of the mission, yet when they go on the streets, they attack their own. They attack federal agents.
Our streets! Get off our streets! Get off our streets! Get off our street!
Why won't you show your face? Like you look yourself in the mirror and think I did a good job today?
Go left! Go left! Turn left!
Go left.
Turn left!
Real quick, if you haven't already, make sure to please subscribe to my channel so I can keep you guys up to date with other protesters who seem to be getting in the way of these federal agents. I do think we're going to see more arrests coming soon, and I want to keep you guys updated. A lot of these federal agents are not used to protesters yelling, shouting, antagonizing, and even obstructing their mission. However, we know that if you are obstructing or getting in the way of these federal agents, Donald Trump has already given the order, take care of it, you are allowed to arrest them.
Oh! Don't spray him. Don't spray him. Don't spray him. Oh, oh.
Now, here's a prime example of what could happen to these protesters who keep showing up, antagonizing, and trying to get in the way of federal operations. In fact, in this post it says, this is how the police in DC treat people for recording. But that's not really the point. You can record the police, but if you're recording, antagonizing, getting too close to a federal operation, you are probably going to get arrested. And here's the thing, the gloves are off in Washington, D.C. This is a massive federal surge to get rid of crime, and if you're trying to get in the way of this mission, you're going to be deemed a suspect, a criminal, and you're going to get in trouble.
Runner, 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 runner!
Who got the fuck? Who just got the fuck?
He put this man in handcuffs with no reason. Hey, don't push him, y'all. Don't push them. Oh, they trying to shoot him, man.
He's walking with the fucking
Calm down. He's going to take your ass to jail.
Okay, so there are a ton of videos coming out of Washington, D.C. just like this, but I do want to highlight or point out there are so many different federal agencies in the area. Sometimes you see an FBI agent next to Metro Police in a clip. Sometimes you see the ATF with Homeland Security and Metro Police in other clips. They are just everywhere, to include the National Guard.
I walk by this train station every single day on my way to work, and I have not seen it like this. You can see a National Guard Humvee behind me, and we've seen, I don't know, Josh, if you can pan over, there are a couple National Guardsmen who are walking across the street over there. We have Humvees basically at each corner of the train station here on a fairly busy Thursday afternoon. And this is what you can expect here in the coming days. Let's pan over there. You can see another Humvee there. This is what you can expect over the next 30 days and possibly a lot longer after that.
I don't think CNN realizes what they filmed. This right here seems to be National Guard members with flex cuffs. Those are pretty much handcuffs where you use a zip tie to detain you, just like a handcuff. What's interesting about this is that it really shows us these National Guard members, they are ready to do business. They are not there to arrest people, they are there to detain people if they get out of hand.
Make the argument to me that Donald Trump is the one defunding the police.
So there is no president in modern history who has done more to cut money to law enforcement nationwide. Donald Trump announced that he was freezing $1 million, in grants to 48 states and 550 community violence intervention programs, including for things like police overtime in Meridian, Connecticut. I used to be chief of staff of the city of Boston. The rate of homicides per 100,000 in Boston is 3.5. Compare that to D.C. at 27 or Jackson at 72. The reason why we did that is because we brought the community together with the police. We built that trust. There's an organization called Youth Alive in California, in Oakland, one of the places that Donald Trump pointed out. They go to the bedside of youth after they've been involved with violence. 113 people last year went through that program. Only one got into violence again the next year. That program just lost their funding.
I just want to point out that video was posted by Dan himself, the man actually talking in the video, and I even went straight to the comments and everyone is saying the same thing. You never really talked about defunding the police, you talked about organizations that work with the police, but let's just say Dan is right. Let's say that Donald Trump is the top president in modern history for cutting funds to law enforcement. I think you guys will find this next stat rather interesting.
Compare Trump to Biden in handling of crime, please.
Yeah, okay. I think this sort of gives the game away here because Donald Trump is like Air Jordan towering over Joe Biden when it comes to their handling of crime. Look, in 2024, look at where Biden's net approval was on crime. Way underwater there at minus 26 points. It was one of Biden's worst issues. Granted, pretty much every issue was one of Biden's worst issues. And again, look at where Donald Trump is. Way, way, way above Joe Biden. What is that? That's 27 points. So Americans vastly prefer Donald Trump's approach to crime than they did to Joe Biden's. And again, I think it gets back to the point that Americans are far more hawkish on crime than a lot of Democrats want to admit.
And just so you guys know, I actually can't find any stat that backs the claim that Donald Trump is the top president in modern history to defund the police. I cannot find it anywhere. I did a ton of research on it, but what I find rather interesting is that Donald Trump, yes, he is using a very aggressive tactic here in Washington, D.C., but I found this old clip that really resurfaced of the mayor of Washington, D.C. trying to kind of use the same tactics even 2 years ago.
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser announced her Safer, Stronger anti-crime legislation. So this morning, she went to Capitol Hill to testify before the House Oversight Committee about crime in the district and ways to reduce it.
Access to firearms is a national problem, and we need common sense gun reform. We also need this Congress to give the mayor control of the D.C. National Guard. We welcome your partnerships or non-public safety initiatives as well.
Now, maybe this news story slid under the radar, but I don't think there were a lot of videos highlighting that the National Guard was proposed to help stop crime in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago. Now, all of a sudden, it's making every single headline.
Swarm of law enforcement, including the feds in Northwest D.C. tonight amid President Trump's takeover of the district. This is in the Columbia Heights neighborhood around 14th Street and Perry Place Northwest. Both Homeland Security and Border Patrol were spotted on this scene. We're working to confirm what they were responding to and how many arrests were made as you see that very large police presence and federal law enforcement presence. We see all of their vehicles lined up there.
Now, what's very interesting about this Washington, D.C. situation is that the majority of Americans hate crime. They see it as a primary issue. But at the same time, if you don't like Donald Trump and you don't like crime, how are you supposed to talk about this without making Donald Trump look good? Because there's no denying that they are getting the job done in Washington, D.C. Many people have been arrested already.
The answer to this problem for Democrats is not, oh, everything's okay, there's nothing to see here, move along. oh, Washington has dropped 24% or whatever in crime. Well, let me give you some other numbers. The Washington Post took a poll at late April, early May. 91% of Washington residents say crime is a problem. 91%. 51%, it is an extremely serious problem. And John Heilman, we've had people before put this in racial terms. And this is, I must say, this is one thing that I think Democrats have gotten so wrong about crime.
I am not a Democrat and clearly not a politician, but if I was a Democrat and I was in a very prominent spot as a Democrat, I would be the one guy jumping on the Trump train here and saying, yes, let's fight crime and show everybody that Democrats love to fight crime. Again, you know it's getting bad when even MSNBC, out of every single organization, is saying, Democrats, you guys got this very wrong.
So wrong about crime. So wrong about crime. Let me just read the Washington Post here. There are stark divides among lines of race and income in the poll, with black residents and lower income residents significantly more worried about crime than white residents and those with higher incomes. As they were last year, black women are among the most concerned, with 65% saying crime is a very or extremely serious issue, compared with 82% who said the same thing last year.
And again, I am not trying to push a narrative here. These are the polls and the stats being pushed by MSNBC, and they're the ones who are even calling out Democrats. That is such a disgusting poll and statistic. I hope those people get the help they need, and it looks like they are in Washington, D.C.
If your house is on fire and then a third of the fire goes out, it's less bad, but it could still be an emergency. I work in D.C. It is dangerous there. You cannot deny that. And a common police tactic is to surge resources. We call them task forces. They're applauded across the board, across the political board. I've done it in New Jersey. I've done it in New York. You take the FBI, you team them up with the Newark PD, what have you. You make a visible presence. Now, is some of it for appearance and show? Yes, because what it does is A, it assures people. It gives people a bit of confidence and security, and B, it deters people from committing crime. So it's not going to hurt, and this is a situation that needs to be improved. I don't see why there's a problem. And I also reject the January 6th. Look, I've been 100% unambiguous critic of everything Donald Trump did on January 6th. I believe he should have been charged criminally. I believe the pardons were a disgrace. But why does that mean he can't do anything now to enforce the law to promote public safety?
When I do research for this channel, I try to pinpoint what is the main argument for the week. Everyone does this, from Republicans to Democrats. There's always that one argument, and if it sticks, it sticks, and if it doesn't, it fades away. The one argument we're not hearing too much of is that Washington, D.C. is safe. But then it went to, well, Washington, D.C., it's not safe, but it's getting better. The stats are going down. We're not even hearing that anymore. This is because just because the stats are down, like you heard in that CNN clip, it's still bad. That's why it's comparable to a house fire. If you put out most of the fire, like you heard on the CNN clip, and then you walk away from the fire, it doesn't mean it can't rekindle and then burn your house down. This is why, at this point, I have no idea what the main argument is from Democrats, other than Donald Trump defunds the police. That seems to be what the new argument is.
I don't know about in y'all city, but this how they pull up in our city. On these all police cars, y'all. Look, that's 3. Keep coming. 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, that was the big line. That's why I said. When
y'all
thought I was just capping. They always,
always in the back right here, y'all. They always in the back. Bubba, look at Bubba. Hey, Bubba.
The D.C. Police Union supports what's happening here. The federal government does have an obligation to help keep the federal capital safe. And I don't think we ought to distract ourselves with what's really at stake here. And that is D.C.'s not safe enough, and the president's trying to make it safe.
Yeah, but I agree D.C.'s not safe.
Okay, so that is pretty much what's going on right now. You either got people who love what's going on in Washington, D.C., you got people who hate it. What I'm very interested in is whether or not we're going to see some more vigilante groups, more protesters try to step in or import themselves into Washington, D.C. and try to get in the way of these federal agents. Thank you guys so much for being here. God bless. Thank you for everything. Peace.